Hey gang, how we doing? Sean from The Good Dog. How is everybody doing? This is going to be a little bit of a ghetto version. We don't have our fancy lights. I'm not going to look super pretty. Probably going to look a little red. Hopefully not too like oily or greasy or anything like that. But I don't have Laura's magic equipment here to help us out. So we'll do with it how we can. Anyways, so we're going iPhone styles back to the old school. Q&A Saturday, and the deal is Laura and me and Jeff and Tori Smith, we're all converging on Rhode Island. Jeff's already there, but we're all already converging on Rhode Island. Let's get this centered. Pretty good, right? Cool. And so we don't have the ability, we don't have the time right now to get me and Laura together. She's packing, getting her life ready, and I'm packing, getting my life ready. So we have to do one of these kind of like split kind of things, this split little Q&A Saturday. So please forgive us that it's not the usual firecracker style Q&A, but I promise it will be entertaining nonetheless and hopefully educational. So with that said, because we don't have anything really funny, I don't have like any funny jokes to tell, so I could like talk to Manny over here and be like, hey Manny, how's your day going? But I think I'm gonna skip all that and just like jump right into the show. I'm gonna take a little dramatic pause. Okay, cool. So she might have just cut in the intro with that. Great song, right? So she might have cut that in. If she cut that in, then cool. Then like that's just wrapped up.
Hey guys, yes, Sean is absolutely right. We are all kind of in flux, getting ready for the trip, and Mr. Forrest is being super patient and comfortable with me because not only am I packing for the trip, but I'm finishing up a move, which is always really fun with a baby. So forgive us for doing it ghetto style again. Next week we're gonna do it ghetto style again, but it's gonna be with Tori and Jeff, so hopefully that'll make up for it. Okay, I'm gonna let Sean just do this number. I'm gonna let him take care of the number all himself.
So, hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog. How is everyone doing? To my left or right or back or who knows where she is the lovely Laura Morgan and probably Forrest Carter, and I don't know if Laura's got nails. I don't know what she's got going on. This is like the unknown episode. So, yeah, and all this good stuff that you can't see, which is basically Manny snoozing over here and Belle snoozing over here, makes up The Good Dog's Q&A Saturday. See me glance down. Q&A Saturday episode 129. That's a lot of fingers.
Nice work, Sean, you did it. That's awesome.
I think I did it right because I think it's backwards, right? 129. Laura will just reverse it if she has to. Anyways, okay guys, so let's jump into the show with no further ado because I don't have any more ado to do. So I just gotta jump in, and I'll jump in with a little bit of some stuff that's going on. We just had Tegan go home. Tegan, the shepherd that was super nervous. She did really, really well. Obviously, she's still an insecure, nervous dog, but she's making some great progress. So we're super excited about how she went home. Milo, the biting corgi, went home yesterday and was working with his male owner and doing really well. His male owner was his main target, and his male owner was walking him up and down the halls and calling him and bringing him to like doorway situations, which would typically be issues for them, would create a lot of pressure and a lot of biting pressure. So we showed him some strategies about how to like, for one, just have an overall better relationship so the biting is not on the menu. Bell. And then when he comes up to a doorway situation, being able to recall Milo away. It was a really simple thing. We tried to record it, but we didn't get a very good recording of it. So unfortunately, I can't share it with you. But the strategy looked like this: dog bites at the doorways on the male owner. So male owner walks up to the doorway with the dog. As the dog gets close, now we could like set a boundary and a perimeter and say you can't even get close to this, but we were looking for a little something different. And so what we did was they get up to the doorway, and if he tried to like usher him out of the way with his feet or something, that could possibly be a trigger situation. He's very foot sensitive. So what we did was have the male owner step back a couple feet, call him, Milo come, boom, Milo took a couple steps back, down. Now safe corgi, a couple feet away from the door, high pressure zone. You don't have to do any physical interaction. Open the door and then call him through if you want to call him through, or leave him there if you wanted to leave him there. So that was cool to see. It was cool to see him working with the dog and feeling empowered and being in a good space and not being worried about getting chewed on, and having some good solid strategies about like how to move the dog away from hyper. Because typically if you don't have e-collar training, you don't have a lot of options. Without e-collar training, it's like it's you and the dog. You either get your hands in there, you get your body in there, you get your feet in there, and you try and like usher the dog back, or you loop a leash, and you know, I mean, it's hard. E-collar training really helps in those dangerous situations by kind of repatterning the dog to where there doesn't have to be this big confrontation. You just call the dog away and the dog's like, oh, no big deal. And then you start a new pattern where it's like the door, I don't even remember the door being an issue. So that was really cool. Daisy has her first go home tomorrow. Everybody knows Daisy Dukes. She's super awesome pitty. We all love her. She's gorgeous, fun, cool, sweet, all that good stuff. But she's got prey drive up the yin yang. Make sure you can see this: prey drive up the yin yang, and then dog reactivity like skyrocket, you know. And we're super proud of where she's at. She's gotten to a place that's like amazing. She's walking pretty much everywhere we go around any situation without any issue. Birds in the bush will sometimes get her goat with Henri. So Henri's really working on that. I don't really get that. Once again, seeing the different kind of like decisions being made on who the handler is and what the sex of the handler is oftentimes, or what the handler brings to the table. And then we've got like gophers, and she's like just on the gopher hunt. But beyond that, the really important thing is, can she be on walks, and can she be around dogs, and can the owners enjoy her? And that's really the primary goal, is like, can the owners enjoy her safely? Because she would redirect and all that stuff. We haven't had any redirects. We've been able to get over the hump with that. We've been able to really like put her on the straight and narrow. And I think if they're ready to stick to their guns, I think they can get her into a really good space. It's gonna be a lot of work. She's not gonna be one of those easy turnkey dogs, but I think they're gonna be able to make it happen.
Okay, so he just uploaded you on all the details and all the goings on, which a lot of that stuff I didn't even know because we've been so busy to even talk to each other. So that was cool for me to watch too. So now, I think we're gonna jump into the questions. Okay, question number 1 comes from Daryl. He had 2 questions, but we're just gonna answer one. Daryl said, I know timing is important in corrections, but I'm having a problem with my other dog getting up out of a down or place when she sees I'm too far away for a correction. Then when she sees me get up to come over to her, she will go back to down or place before I can get to her. In this type of situation, is it okay to go ahead and correct after she's gone back to what she knows she's supposed to be doing, or is this only going to confuse her? I plan to get e-collars for both dogs soon, but I'm looking for advice on what to do in the meantime.
That's a fantastic question. Manny, scoot over, bud. Sorry, bud. This couch ain't big enough for the 2 of us. Manny, get out of here. How do I get this to be just right without falling off? Okay, so this is a super common situation, right? Super common. Dogs know exactly how close you are. Can you grab their leash? Can you catch them? Are you close enough to influence them? Are you not close enough to influence them? People don't give them nearly enough credit. Dogs, and I'm not saying Daryl's not, but people just in general don't give them nearly enough credit. They're so smart. And so everybody's seen the keep away game. Everybody knows when dogs are like, you can't catch me. And so that's a really fun game. And if a dog is in command and sees that you're far enough away, or you walk out of the room, the dog's like, Why do you think the dog gets up? Is he confused? No, he's like, opportunity, cool. So anyways, I have some pretty firm feelings on this stuff, right? So Daryl, for me, the kind of the trick in all this is the patterning. So I'm a big believer that if you haven't done any patterning with the dog on something, it really changes the latency or the amount of time you have for a correction or information to be valuable. If you've done a ton of patterning and the dog knows exactly what's expected of it, I feel in my deepest of soul and bones that you have a lot more time to correct. Not an hour, but you have a lot more time for the dog to know that, crap, I was supposed to be over there, because they've been patterned so much, right? And I've just seen this play out over and over and over again. And I'm sure a lot of dog trainers, like, this is like a huge controversy in dog training of like, you've got 1 second, you've got 2 seconds, you've got 3 seconds, whatever it might be. All I know is I've seen different things with different dogs, depending on where they're at in training. And I've seen dogs that once patterned significantly to place, that if I happen to step into the other room for a second, and then they break because they know I'm gone, if I correct, even if I'm gone like a minute or two, they're like, I got it, right? So they know where they were supposed to be. I just truly believe dogs are smarter than people give them credit for. So now that's with e-collar typically. Now we'll do it the same thing with prong, but with e-collar it's super easy. Now I wanna make sure this question doesn't go too long, so we're gonna talk about both prong and e-collar real quick. So with prong collar, typically you're at a distance, right? You put the dog in place, dog's on prong, leash, hanging, you step away, you're across the room, or you leave the room. But let's say you're just across the room, dog notices you're kind of like a ways away, dog goes digga 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 dig, and then you stand up and the dog goes digga 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 dig right back. How come? Because he knows what he's supposed to be doing, because it's crystal clear. Now, what you should do with leash and prong, I always say there's a 3-step process if the dog doesn't beat you back there. But the 3-step process is mark it with a no. So as soon as you see it, no, right? So then you get absolute clarity. There's no question. And then you calmly walk over, grab the dog, or grab the leash, I should say, give the leash a pop, physical consequence for breaking a known behavior or known rule, and then gently guide the dog back to place. The correction isn't in the dragging the dog back to place. The correction is the physical consequence. So no says you did something wrong, the dog goes, uh-oh, physical consequence, calmly delivered, says, that's the consequence for breaking the rule, and then you guide the dog back to place. Now, if the dog goes back, and your question is if the dog goes back to place and beats you to it, so as soon as you see him, say no, so there's absolute clarity. But if you don't see him, and you walk in, and he's across the room, well, I mean, the way you're explaining it, no matter what, you're seeing him before he goes back to place. So as soon as you see him, just say no. It'll give you more clarity for the dog, right? Like, and take away any kind of wondering or questioning that you might have. So you walk up, you walk in, whatever it is, you get out of your chair and you see the dog's moved, no. And then the dog's like, back to place. Absolutely go over and correct for that. The dog knows crystal clear what it should have been doing, or it wouldn't have run back to place. It's easy peasy, super simple. So yes, the answer is correct, as long as the dog has been patterned and knows what's expected. Will you confuse the dog? Absolutely not. No, you'd confuse the dog if you allowed the dog to keep breaking and getting off of place with no consequence. Then you say like this command, it's kind of negotiable. So what I want you to do is, with that prong, dog steps off, no, and then calmly walk over. Even if he beats you back to place, pop, correction. That way the dog doesn't ever beat the game, right? If the dog's like, cool, I get to move and then I get back and I beat the game, you don't give me a correction because you don't think it's fair, like, that's perfect for a dog, right? So with e-collar, it's super easy because as soon as you see him, wherever you see him, you just say no simultaneously with the tap, and the dog goes, oh crap, my goose is cooked. So it kind of eliminates one part of the process. You don't have to mark it, then move to the dog, give the consequence, then move the dog back, because the first two happen together. Hopefully that makes sense. But really the upshot is, don't let dogs play games with you. When you see they're playing games, know they're playing games, right? So go after it, let the dog know, I've taught you place. You're not allowed to leave, even if I'm across the room. Doesn't matter. And if you do, you're still gonna get corrected. And watch what your dog does. Your dog will stop breaking place. Pretty easy. All right? Hope that helps.
Okay, nice. Nice, Sean. Okay, so question number 2 comes from Destiny. Destiny says, my 4-year-old female papillon, always tries to attack my 6-month-old, oh, here we go, male papillon, just going with papillon, when we are handing out snacks and treats. I'm really sorry for the breed. He does fight back, which just escalates things. I always give her the treat first so that she doesn't feel like she's losing her place in the pack, and then I'll give him his, and she attacks him because she wants it. She's e-collar trained, but it's hard to give a correction while holding stuff, and I don't always know when she's going to attack him because it isn't 100% of the time, more like 80%. She also freaks out and makes a big scene if she's chewing on like a bully stick, and he walks by her just minding his own business, not trying to steal it. Any thoughts or tips? Little brat.
I don't like that at all. So for one, screw this whole thing about like not wanting her to be like confused about where she stands in the pack. That's BS. She needs to stand at the back of the line if that's her behavior. The only people in the front of the line is you, right? The only people in the front of the line is you. And I would actually give your other dog the treat first and say, you, Miss Fancy Pants with the bratty attacking bullshit attitude, hit the skids. You'll wait longer than anybody, right? Don't reward crappy behavior by trying to maintain pack-like structure. It's not how it works. You're just reinforcing, like, if you had 2 kids and one of the kids, whenever like mealtime came around, the one kid walked up and like smacked the other kid because he wanted the meal, and you were like, well, we're gonna feed Jimmy first because he always gets angry if he doesn't get to eat. I wanna make sure Jimmy understands where he's at. Bullshit. No. Jimmy's being a jackass. Jimmy should eat last. Jimmy should sit and watch as the other one eats, right? So I would absolutely not allow that. I would absolutely not encourage that. That's BS pack structure stuff that's been passed on to you for some reason. So you've got an e-collar on, man, you're so set. This is such an easy thing. So give the other dog the treat, then give the snotty girl the treat. And if you see any tension, any eyes at any point, even before treats come out, like, you probably shouldn't be doing treats. Like, why are there treats involved if they're causing fights? Like, make your life easy. Get rid of the treats. Dogs are gonna be great. They don't need it. Like, always perplexes me when there's like, we're giving them treats and they're fighting over it. Don't give them treats. Make it easy, because they haven't earned the right to have treats because they fight over it, even if the one is not being a bad dog. So my one kind of caveat to that is that that's cool to give them treats if you're going to address it. It's not cool to give treats and create constant tension and problems, but it's cool to give treats if you're going to say, you jackass that's being a pushy bully, I'm going to go after you and I'm going to nail you and we're going to get rid of this. Then that's cool. So this girl, however you set it up, I would give the other guy the treat first, and I would hope that that would cause anything like that, pop. Nice high level. Let that dog know that's being snotty. No. Get your butt out of here. And I don't mean she has to leave the premises. I mean, get that attitude out of here. Get that mindset, get it out of here. We don't want that here. It's not accepted. Connect a consequence with the attitude and mindset and watch it change. Don't feel like, well, I'm holding things. Like, set yourself up to succeed. Like, I can't buy that excuse that like I've got too much stuff. No, find a way to do it to where you can have an e-collar in your hand and you can correct the dog that's being nasty, so you can have harmony in your house. Your dog's being a brat and a bully and nasty. Like, it's got to end. So, and even if the snotty stuff happens, like, and you don't catch it for the first few seconds and it like dissipates, still correct. Are you crazy? Like, your dog isn't like, I attack and like, I don't remember anything about just what transpired. Everything's great. Why would I be corrected? No. That's that same thing about dogs being like, they just live in the moment. They attacked and now they're like, hey brother, how are you? Yeah, I know stories of like dogs that have dog fights and they lick each other's faces, but not the next second. It takes time for that to happen. They don't just like fight and brawl and draw blood and then be like, they might fight and brawl and then 10, 15, 20, 30, an hour later, they might be friends again. So what happens is when your dog, if your dog was my dog and I had your two, first of all, I certainly wouldn't be giving Bratty Pants treats. Geez, no way. Like that attitude, like you don't deserve treats. But if I want to get through this and I want to work through this issue, then set it up, e-collar on, whatever's going to elicit the response is what you want to do. That's your setup, right? You got two small dogs, so you got a lot of safety. It's not like you're probably gonna get any kind of major damage. If you do feel like you're gonna have major damage, then of course muzzle one of the dogs. But it sounds like that's not what's going on. It sounds like scuffling, crazy, like monkey business. So as soon as you see the slightest, don't wait for the attack, don't wait for the growl, don't wait for the whole like launch. That's bad training. That's way behind the curve training. That's not where you want to go. You're looking at a dog, that's when you correct, right there. As soon as the state of mind shifts, I gotta figure out where I'm looking over here. As soon as the state of mind shifts, that's when you want to go. Correct nice and firm, and make sure that you don't allow, once corrected, that snotty dog to go in after the other dog. So maybe have a leash on the dog. So set it up to where you have lots of control, correction. Dog goes after the other dog even after the correction. Guide him away. Set it up again. Repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat until the dog goes, oh, attacking? Not so much fun, right? Simple stuff. Connect a consequence that the dog dislikes to a behavior that you dislike and watch it go away. That's it. Then the rest is just strategy. What's the safest way to do it? What's the best way to do it? What's the easiest way? And put it together and make it happen. And then make sure you use levels that the dog cares about. And then the last thing, make sure there's no spoiling, babying, like access to bed, couch, holding, carrying, access to your personal space if you want this better. If you've got a dog with already a predisposition to a bratty, entitled, empowered attitude, and you're doing any of that stuff of like cuddling, cozy, giving too many privileges, you're asking for it. You're building a brat. You're actually like with hammer and wrench, you're building a brat. So don't do that. All right? I hope that helps.
Oh, I so agree with all of that answer. And I'm just like, especially the why treats. The only reason we would use treats right now is just to set that up, because that's just not happening. We don't need to do treats for now. And I think it's one thing for a lot of owners feel like the pressure of like, oh, I need to give my dog treats. It's kind of part of like dog ownership. Like you buy treats and a bed and, put a roof over their head or whatever, but treats aren't necessary. I never give my dog treats. I feed him and I have fun with him and I play with him and I walk him and all that stuff, but treats aren't really, sometimes maybe for tricks and stuff, but it's not like daily he needs them. And I really think that especially if your dog's being a brat around them, cut him out until she earns them. Okay, question number 3 comes from Emily. Emily says, I have an 11-month-old female lab who's super intolerant of puppies. She doesn't seem to have an issue with them when doing something, but anytime one approaches her head on or acts wild around her, she feels the need to correct them, which has ended with her pinning them down and growling before. She hasn't hurt anyone, but she doesn't look too splendid. She stops when I call her name or tell her to come. Why does she do this, and when is it too much? Is this normal canine behavior, or should I take the necessary precautions to keep her away from puppies?
Okay, I think this happens way too much, and we've talked about this at length as well. We've talked about dogs, adult dogs, or like this is close to an adult dog, living with puppies that are allowed to misbehave and act like jackasses. And then as they get older, I'm still trying to find this, like, do I just need to move? No, better. My OCD is like, line up. So we've had definite cases of adult dogs or close to adult dogs that have had to live with bratty puppies that no one has stopped their behavior because it's big, like popular stuff to allow the adult dog to correct the puppy. And then down the road, you've got an adult dog that says, you suck. You've sucked for the last 6 months and I'm done with you. I'm gonna clean your clock now that you're older. Now you don't get the puppy pass, now I attack you. So that's a potential. I will allow Belle and Manny, dogs that are just absolutely bomb-proof, to interact with puppies and give them corrections, because they do it so well. They're so balanced, they're so reasonable, they're so patient with it that I trust them 100%. I know they're not gonna build any grudges off of it. So I don't know your lab. I don't know how your lab's feeling about it. It sounds like your lab's getting kind of intense about it. Now, is it normal canine behavior? Yeah. So like growling, warning puppies that they're being jackasses and then pinning them, it is natural. It is normal. The thing is, I would prefer you be the one that's being the leader of your household, rather than putting that pressure on your lab, because you don't know at this point at 11 months old what your lab's truly capable of and what kind of like disposition and abilities as an adult dog that it will have. So for me, 99.99999% of the time, we are the ones that do the advocating. If a puppy's being a jackass, we stop it. We address it. And guess what happens? The adult dog goes, oh, thank God, somebody's actually doing something. I don't have to be the one. I don't have to be the heavy that addresses the puppy. Now, like I said, if you've got one of those magic dogs and you've seen him be amazing around a ton of puppies and always is like incredibly appropriate, maybe. But I would prefer you err on the side of you addressing, so your dog doesn't have to do it, because you don't know what you got and you don't know what you're going to end up with as an adult dog. And we have had plenty of clients show up here with your exact same situation who have said, everything seemed cool. You know, we just thought our adult dog was like keeping the young one in line. And then now they hate each other and they fight, right? So much better to nip it in the bud, or in the butt, as T-Money would say. T-Money, watch this, it's in the bud. Much better for you to nip it in the bud than it is to allow the possibility of this becoming something less appetizing, something unsavory, something that becomes an actual grudge or a dog fight continuing on. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but we see it a lot. So you do the work, and you are the one that prevents the puppy from being the jackass. Let your dog off the hook and let your dog enjoy life. Sound good? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Okay, great. Question 4 comes from Melissa. Melissa says, intermittent dog aggression. My 2-year-old GSD mix has attacked one dog that she knew for months before it happened. Since then, she's been muzzled around other dogs, and I've purposely pushed her buttons with my boss, and she's reacted. But in between those 2 instances, she has been sweet and as can be, and can show no aggression or reactions to other dogs. Thoughts? I think push the buttons with the boss. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure we'll figure it out.
So that's a little confusing. I'm not sure I make 1,000 million percent or have 1,000 million percent clarity on exactly what you're saying about those like times where you're setting her up with the boss and she is or isn't making good choices. It's a little confusing for me. So, but I will say this. 2-year-old dogs are prime time, pain in the ass, the time when you start to see behaviors come to the fore, the time that like dogs that used to be dog park dogs and would frolic with all the dogs start to be less tolerant, start to go after other dogs, the times when you start to see dogs that used to be cool around everybody that came to your house starting to like look warily, maybe bark a little more, maybe growl, maybe get uncomfortable, uncertain, starting to see fearful stuff where you saw just maybe insecurity or uncertainty before, and now you're seeing full-blown like fear stuff. It's super duper common. The like terrible 2s for dogs, it's really, really the case. Like, of course it can happen at like, you know, a year and a half, and for some dogs it can happen closer to 3, but like 2 is kind of that magic number where most dog trainers tend to see behaviors come to the fore. So I would imagine that that's what's going on with your dog. So your dog has seemed cool and easy with other dogs up until this point, and now you're starting to see intermittent aggression, as you're calling it, which means that your dog is selecting which dogs it feels comfortable with and which ones it doesn't feel comfortable with. and going after them. And that's not that unusual for a 2-year-old GSD or GSD mix if they haven't been given like real clarity about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So cool, you got them on the muzzle. And if you do have them on the boss, then that's really cool, because then you're able to really like address any kind of escalation or even intent, like chasing a dog or something. If you're at a dog park, heaven forbid, or you're at a friend's house or something, and you see a dog just being like a knucklehead and a brat and pushy and things like that, so easy to correct with the e-collar. And like, not just like, here's a real important tip for you guys that are dealing with dog aggression, and even like reactivity in the house. The tendency for most folks is to just give the dog an obedience command. So if your dog's hassling another dog or your dog's being crazy at the front door, most people just recall them away. And a lot of trainers tell you to do that. Recall the dog away, put them in a down, put them in place if it's in the house, like recall them away from the other dog if they're outside. For me, I disagree with that. So the only caveat to that would be, I don't want to do a big correction on a dog when they're right next to a dog, because I don't want to start a dog fight, right? But when I see a dog that's starting to like one of my dogs, not that my dogs would do that, but like if it was a dog in my care and it started to do this, before it got to the other dog, as soon as I saw it like look across or anything like that, pop. And then recall. First, consequence. Consequence, don't be a jackass. Then, obedience command. Obedience commands on their own don't stop behavior. They don't create inhibitions. All they do is interrupt and then bring the dog back. And there's people that will tell you that if you do it enough times, it'll go away. That's not the case that I've seen. What I've seen is that dogs just continuously stay in this pattern of like, I don't like you, I go after you, oh, worst thing that happens, right? I get called away, right? Worst thing that happens, I blow up at the front door, I get called away. So I'd really like to see you address your dog significantly at the very beginning of any escalation. And the best situation you could have would be around dogs that are bomb-proof, that if you correct your dog and your dog vocalizes at all or anything like that, that the other dogs don't attack. You do this at a dog park, you got a big chance of a really bad situation. So I don't recommend this at all at a dog park, but around friends' dogs that you trust like implicitly 1,000,000,000%, you can get away with it. But what I mainly want to get is that concept to you. And that concept is first consequence, then obedience command. And if the obedience command isn't responded to, consequence for that too. But mainly, the dog needs to know in that moment, that thing they're thinking about, that thing they're thinking about acting on, or just about to act on, or acting on, there needs to be a consequence attached to that so the dog has clarity. That's unwanted. I shouldn't do that. That's uncomfortable. Okay, cool. Let me make a better choice. Oh, and then mom's calling me away, right? So you get that double punch. You get that like, boom, don't do that. Ooh, I shouldn't have done that. Come. Okay. Right? So that's the best way to go about it. So set it up. I don't want to go over our 6-minute mark, but understand 2 years, very, very common. You're in good company with all that. Be super cautious about watching as your dog develops and see what's kind of cooking. But what I would be doing right now is like, what sounds like what you're doing is really going after him and laying down the law as your dog becomes, more mature and starts issuing consequences or boundaries or like challenging other dogs. He knows that's not okay. So your job is to find context and situations that you can do that in safely and create that conversation or communication. And you need safe dogs to do that around, that he'll maybe push their buttons and you can correct, give that clarity, but not have to worry about a dog fight. Like I said, same thing goes on inside the house. I hope that helps in kind of the overall why it happens and then how to go about addressing it. Just remember that if you go for a big correction on knee collar, when the dog is like engaged, head over the other dog, something like that, you can easily start a dog fight. So those are some of the moments, just to give you a quick little inside tip, where I'd go low and get the dog's attention away from the dog and then call the dog away. Those are one of those situations where you might not get to do exactly how you'd like to do it. Because if a dog is like really tight on the other dog, you don't want to correct and have a dog fight go on. So that can be a challenge. That's why I'm saying catch it super early at the posturing, at the eye contact, at the intent, at the whole kind of rigidity, that whole thing. Once they get like locked on top of each other, even before a fight, it's real easy to create a fight through a correction. So hopefully that helps, all right?
Okay, question 5, the final question. Rachel asks, I have a dog that is very needy and possessive of my husband. She can get very clingy to him. We have our first child on the way. What is the best way to introduce the dogs to the baby? And how do we make it know that the baby is of higher rank than the dogs? Thanks in advance.
So we got a couple things going on. We've got a needy, insecure, see if I can get myself set up here. A needy, insecure dog, which is always going to be potentially more challenging, potentially more risky. If that dog really is needy and dependent and clingy to your husband, then there's always the good chance that your dog will be possessive, protective, and maybe even correct or bite a child that might get close to him. So your husband should start working on creating more emotional and physical distance, which means place training, things like that, where the dog learns to stay away. Your husband probably digs that the dog likes him so much, but like that's how you create possessive, protective, biting behavior. Just to make that really crystal clear, like it's the same thing they'll do around a bone, right? People are like the highest level bone, right? So whether it's food, bone, toy, something like that, dogs are happy to bite over humans. So your husband and you really need to do some like research, talk to a pro, talk to a trainer, get somebody on board that can start to help you guys pull some of that kind of dependency away, or help get rid of some of that dependency by creating more independence, more security, more confidence. Good training will do that. Full e-collar program would be awesome. Lots of place command far away from your husband would be best. So that's one part of it, because it worries me just hearing that you've got a needy, possessive kind of dog. It just worries me. It's like all I can think about is a baby crawling towards your husband and a dog saying, get the hell away, and biting your baby. So be super aware of that. Beyond that, there's this whole thing about like, I hate it, but it's all about like, you got to bring the baby's clothes home and let the dog smell them. You've got to like bring the dog into the baby's room and let the dog like smell the baby or smell like clothes, or like all this monkey business BS. That's a great way to do the reverse of what you're looking for. What you're looking for is clarity from the dog's perspective. Don't touch the baby. Don't come close to the baby. There's a bubble around the baby. Thou shalt not pass. If you do, big consequence, right? But if you're like bringing the baby's blankets or toys or any of the stuff, or you're trying like at the worst case scenario, like trying to get the dog to like sniff the baby, which we've had plenty of clients accidentally do because they didn't know any better, or just leaving the dog around the house. Sorry, I got distracted. Or just leaving the dog around the house in areas that the baby's in, trying to like, what I'm really getting at is that clients try to create this relationship. They try and form a relationship by having a dog who's nervous and unsure about an infant, right? Get this, like this is what I really want you to get. Your dog doesn't know what the infant is, right? So what does that make your dog feel like? Stressed, worried, anxious. Do they make the best choices then? Absolutely not. Don't set your dog up to be in a stressed, anxious, nervous, worried space where they're going to make bad choices because you're trying to create some relationship. Instead, you're saying like, I want to create like clear pecking order where the dog understands, baby up here, dog down here. That's easy peasy. There's always a bubble around your baby. Teach your dog existence around your baby. Don't teach your dog interaction around your baby. And watch your dog have mad respect for your baby. Truthfully, it's that simple, right? Everybody's got it backwards. Dog needs to sniff the baby. That's me, like holding the baby out here. Dog is, no. That's how you create dog bites. That's how you create bad relationships. It's actually the opposite. All these folks that are out there like teaching all sorts of BS stuff about how to get dogs and babies together, so much of it is dangerous and so much of it ends up here where we're trying to fix that stuff. So teach your dog Some very, very, very clear rules. Whatever it is, 5, 10 feet, you do not come closer than 5, 10 feet when I've got the baby or wherever the baby is. If you do, e-collar correction. I would do a full e-collar program with your dog just to help work on everything, confidence and the whole deal. Your dog should be at place. If your dog doesn't know place, you better teach your dog place. Dogs roaming around the house, making decisions on their own, not what you want. Dogs are in place, calm, chilled out, relaxed, composed, cool. Baby crying, blah, 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 blah. Dog gets up, no. Correction, dog goes back to place. This crying baby, none of your business. 0 of your business. You go back and lay down. And what happens is you pattern this enough, you practice this enough, you create that clarity enough that the baby is none of your business, and guess what? The baby becomes none of their business. They stop caring because they're around it all the time, but they don't have to get involved. The clarity is like, I just hang out here. There's this creature over here making this noise, and I just have to hang out here, and I don't have anything to say about it. And if I do, I get corrected. So I might as well just hang. And what ends up happening, and there's people that will tell you, oh my God, if you correct your dog around the baby, it'll create a negative association. No, it's crazy talk. It's crazy talk. If your dog is worried about your baby, the negative association's already there. I always say that. What you'll get, it's natural counter conditioning. What you'll get is a dog that doesn't care about your baby because it's been around it so much. That's how we introduce dogs. It's the same thing. We just have them exist around each other for a long time, and then they're like, that's that dog again. But you try and create a relationship with dogs initially, early on, stress, anxiety, bad choices, dog fights, right? All that stuff. It's the same thing with the baby. So what we're looking for is existence. And I'm telling you, Rachel, if you'll follow these rules, and I know so many people are like, but I want a family. I want the dogs to love the baby. Great. They will, but allow it to organically move. Allow your dogs to organically develop a comfort level with your baby as your baby gets older and starts acting less like a baby and more like a human. So your dog has clarity about what's going on with your baby, that it's a human, that it's not some creature that I don't understand, that I'm worried and stressed and freaked out about. Does that make sense? I hope so. That's like the whole kit and caboodle. Like, strong rules, big bubble, no baby blanket sniffing, no sniffing the baby at all. Keep your distance and watch your dog become comfortable with your baby as long as you enforce the rules. Feel bad about it, feel like, oh, I don't want my, I don't want it, and you're gonna have trouble. Feel strong about it. My baby is my highest priority. Dogs, way down here. You stay over there, dogs. Me and the baby are hanging out here. You'll have awesome stuff, especially if you're patient and you just let it organically build. And then you'll start to see where, like, your child starts to become more of a child, or I should say your infant becomes more of a child. And then you can start to kind of move and see, how does the dog feel when the child's walking or running or making noise? Is the dog worried and nervous? Then the dog should be back tied or safely put somewhere until that dog develops a comfort level. Typically what we see is that dogs just are like, yeah, it's that kid, that damn kid. I see him all the time. So those are my recommendations. Just let it grow naturally through dogs just existing. And you want your dog to be in a pecking order of where they feel the baby's above them. That's how you do it, right? You don't do it by having the dog sniff the baby. You do it by saying, baby's none of your business. That's how you get there. So with that, I'm going to get on out of here. I hope this was a good show. I know it's been a little bit different, kind of like, you know, there's no Laura, there's no Forrest, there's, you know, it's probably not quite as zany. I didn't get to ask her any questions about, like, Cousin Oliver or any, like, old pop references, but hopefully it's kind of its own thing. So love you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys so much. Always appreciate the comments. Appreciate that you guys check in and make us like a regular part of your Saturday. And our goal is just always to hopefully give you something to smile about, you know, something to laugh about if we're lucky, and a lot of good information for you and your dog, so you guys can be successful. All right, Sean from The Good Dog. Take care. Laura, we'll pretend like we're high five, and hopefully this all goes well. See you guys. See you next week. Bye.
Okay, love you guys. He said it all. Oh yeah, and I didn't show my nails. They're new and they're beautiful. I'm about to cut this baby up. See ya. See you next week.